Tide fans, welcome into the Alabama Adapted Athletics Coaches Show Week 7. I'm Dom Taylor, and with me for another Coaches Show episode is head men's wheelchair basketball coach Ford Burttram. Coach, we're back. It's a new semester. It's a new half season of wheelchair basketball for the Crimson Tide. How you feeling on this Friday afternoon?
I'm good. I'm excited for what's in future for us.
Yeah, and there's a lot coming down the pipe. We've got several more weekends of wheelchair basketball, more home tournaments, and, of course, college nationals coming up in just about a month and a half. Before we get into this episode, as always, want to thank Honey Stinger, the official sponsor of the Alabama Adapted Athletics Coaches Show. Honey Stinger is a sports nutrition brand that uses natural sweeteners in their products, and Honey Stinger will assist our athletes in preparation, performance, and recovery for all competition this season. So look for their products like the Honey Stinger waffle bars and the Honey Stinger Energy Chews in retail stores, and be sure to check them out online. And thank you, Honey Stinger. Coach, before this past weekend, it had been 2 months since your squad was back in Strand-Harden Arena playing their games that they had scheduled for this season. I mean, it had been a long time since it wasn't anything else other than practice, and overall it was a successful weekend for your team. They went 3-1 on the weekend at the Hollister Winter Bash. The team earned a revenge win over Illinois, solid wins over Whitewater and Auburn, and there was the loss to Arizona, a close one, but a lot to be learned and developed from that loss. 11-2 in conference play, 13-3 overall. As always, would love to hear your opening statement on what you saw from your squad throughout the Hollister Winter Bash.
Well, I saw a lot of improvement throughout the weekend, and I saw us, kind of get the rust off from not playing together as a complete unit since we were in Whitewater in December. And then, we played the Auburn tournament. We were missing Iggy and a couple other things down in that tournament. So it was nice to see the full squad together and playing and getting the rust off. And, it was a good weekend overall for us.
Let's start with this chronologically. Start with Arizona. They were the number one team in terms of conference record coming into this weekend. They left the same way. It's a talented squad that your team almost took to the brink. Actually, the lead for most of the middle of the game there. But as my high school offensive line coach would say, almost is only good for horseshoes and hand grenades. And it's going to be one that's going to sting for a little bit. Some specific stats that I found after reviewing this game: a 9-4 advantage in second chance points for Arizona. There were 12 points off of turnovers for Arizona, 15 by Bama turnover-wise overall. And then the shooting dropped from 53% in the first half to 38% in the second half, 4 for 12 from the free throw line. All that to say, only a 4-point loss, which for everything that went wrong, there's a lot to be said from just how close that game was. But take me through exactly what you saw. You had some thoughts on just what you thought went wrong in this game, and I'll have a follow-up question to that coming up after that. But take me through what you saw in that one.
Well, I think the overall theme for us that went wrong is that our composure was lost in the game early in the second half. We got ourselves into foul trouble. Ignacio got himself into foul trouble. And, down the stretch, even after he fouled out, we lost our composure. We had 4 or 5 turnovers in the last 3.5 minutes of the game when we had chances to tie or take the lead on all those possessions. So, you can't finish a game that way, and all the stuff that happened in the middle is stuff that we can clean up and fix. But the way in which we held our composure and bounced back the rest of the weekend was really nice to see.
How do you deal with the size of Arizona in the future? They're one of the taller teams that you've seen in conference with Griner and Mutuare and, of course, Justin Newman. He did end up fouling out at the game towards the end, but it's such a tall squad, and Alabama loves to victimize teams in the paint, and that's something that they made very difficult for you. So working around that in the future, what's something that the team can do? Is it shot selection? How do you work around a team with height like that?
Well, you got to backpick, and you got to keep them out of the play. You got to pick your spots to attack. You got to pick your mismatches. You got to take better shot selection in the paint. You can't go in and just get all in the middle of them. You got to take space shots. I believe that we won the game 38-30 in the paint, though, still overall. So, we attacked it well. We just came up short on a few things, and I think in the second half we settled for a few too many outside shots. Hence the reason our shot percentage went down. And a tight, close game. First game of the semester, so hats off to them. They played a good game, and we look forward to seeing them again at some point.
I was going to say, more than likely, with the trajectories and the way that both these teams are going, there's a good chance that we'll see the Wildcats again in potentially the NIWBT. So we'll be looking forward to that. Hopefully we get another shot at them when the time comes. But the second game of the weekend was much more fun for the Crimson Tide, I would say, in terms of the outcome. A revenge win over the Illinois Fighting Illini. It's always fun to play such a talented rival in the college division, especially to get a win. The second time around, the team came away with a 58-44 victory, getting the revenge from the loss in Whitewater a couple months ago. Illinois went 2 for 17 from beyond the arc. They shot 28% as a team total. It was from that number, completely poor shooting for the Illini. But how much of that was attributed to the Crimson Tide defense defending the arc, defending the paint, and how much of it was just the shots not falling for the Illini from what you can recall from that game?
I will leave that up to the viewers to decide.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like we played good defense and we had a good game plan going in against them, and we identified where they wanted to get their shots off from, and we helped eliminate some of those spots and really overplayed them to send them in other directions and make them take other shots, and I think that led to some of their shooting woes.
It was a fun one to watch for sure. That was the first of 3 times this weekend that the Crimson Tide held the opponent to exactly 44 points, which is, the odds of that happening are.
I didn't realize that happened.
Auburn, Whitewater, and Illinois, all 44 points total, or for the entire game. They kept to that exact number, which was pretty impressive. I had to look back at it and it was like, oh, well, that's a fun trend, you know?
Yeah.
But yes, a great win there, and then that was the first of 3. Jumping into the next one against Whitewater, Alabama had a pretty close one against Whitewater just a couple months ago, and then the second time around, it's a 40-point domination. I was just kind of stunned as to what changed. Whitewater, I don't think they traveled with as many players as they had in Whitewater, but even still, their main starters were on the court. They shot at a 27% clip, so another poor shooting game for another team. Was there any strategy that changed for Whitewater this time around, or was it essentially the same deal?
We made some adjustments on jumping some of their guys behind the arc and eliminating some of those opportunities and making those opportunities a little bit more difficult with pressure and extending them a little bit. In Whitewater, the game was closer at the end than I thought it was. And you and I talked about that. So I feel like that we just came out, and I think the big difference was our composure, man. We stayed composed. We stayed playing together as a team. We played 40 minutes of basketball as a team, and we did what we were supposed to do, and we did it very well. So,
how do you teach composure? How do you try to get a team, just in the couple conference losses that have occurred this season, a lot of it has come from things just unraveling over the course of the game. A strong start, there's times where Alabama led against Illinois in their first loss last semester. They led against Arizona, and then things started to unwind. And like you said, composure was the biggest issue there. How do you teach something like that? How do you make a team forget the mistakes, forget the miscommunications, regroup, move on to the next possession?
Well, I think that a lot of that is reps, and a lot of that is going through difficult times as a team. In both those losses, we were up by 5 at halftime, 36 to 31
Gotcha.
At halftime against Arizona, and 24-19 against Illinois at halftime. Obviously I'm still learning how to teach them composure, as we're still not great at it. But I think it's an ongoing evolution for a team, and I think the more reps at it, and the more chances you have to face adversity and to really have to deal with a situation where you have to be composed, and you have to stick to your guns. The more that you do that, the easier it becomes to handle. So I think putting them in the right positions, and I think that we have, and we're still young in parts and sides, and so we need to make better decisions as a group as a whole, and I think that we do that on some days, and some days we don't. So I think just working on it on a regular basis and talking about it and being upfront and honest about it is a big part of it.
Now, finally, for the Auburn Tigers, it was the final win of the weekend for the Crimson Tide, a 63-44 victory over the in-state rival. This is I like to keep track of this because Auburn rival, I got to know for personal reasons. How many times have we beat the Tigers since I've been here? Because that's all that I can remember beyond that. Eight in a row. 8-0 since I've been here. I'm happy with that record. I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good since I've been here. Beating a team over, again, beating them multiple times in a season when they fight you close, they can't beat you with different lineups. It's one thing to have consistency throughout a game, but to do it against certain teams multiple times in a season, especially talented teams like Auburn, how do you? Do you see different changes that you have to adapt to from game to game? Does Auburn have they thrown different things at you? It seems like they've kind of come at it with the same lineup. Take me through that. Playing a team multiple times in a season and trying to beat them every single time. Do you stick to your guns, keep the same way that you've beat them before, or try to change up the formula? How does that work from the coaching perspective?
No, well, you have to really take a look at who you're playing and what they have, and look at their strengths and their weaknesses, and watch them play other teams and watch what they use for their strengths and their, see where they get exploited as their weaknesses. And I think that Auburn is a very talented crew, and they're seasoned. They've grown over the past 4 or 5 years, and they're a really good basketball team. And for us, it's about staying focused and staying on point with the game plan. And the game plan changes every single time we play them, because in reality, they change every time we play them, right? It's not the same exact team that we see day in and day out. So it changes, and we have to adjust as to how we attack them and how we handle them on the defensive end. So I think that it's a constant adjustment and a constant reminder that they're in-state rivals, and that we don't want to lose to them. I tip my hats to our boys because they really stay focused in those games. And the number you just said, the 8 in a row, I hadn't even thought about or even crossed my mind.
It's probably not your job to think about stuff like that. It's more of that's more of my job. I'll think about streaks like that. You don't have to worry about that.
So I'm always looking at what's next and turning the page, and I think being able to be mindful of what they've brought in the past and being able to attack them in different ways and watch them and how their game has evolved, and still make sure that we are evolving in the right way, that we can handle whatever they're throwing at us, is a big part of it.
Coach, there's about a month and a half away from Nationals, middle of March. That's when it's coming up, and there's only a few more college tournaments for this Tide squad before then. What's being emphasized to your team in practice right now, with Nationals only about a month and a half away? I would imagine it's not you can't be looking that far in the future. You're playing Auburn again in a few weeks. You've got SUNY coming in here. So there's going to be some more teams to play before then. But what's being emphasized in practice right now as the road to Nationals gets closer and closer?
Big things that are being emphasized in practice right now are staying focused on your grades. And this week we talked about condition, not necessarily physical condition, but mental and physical condition, and keeping our minds in the right headspace so where we can still continue to learn and develop and grow as a team, and then also be able to put that into practice as we are playing on the court. Composure obviously is a big part of what we're talking about on a regular basis, and I never look 2 or 3 games into the future. I'm always looking at what's next. So ABC will be next for us next Friday, and that's another game we would like to have gotten back from the beginning of the year. So we'll be ready to get after them pretty aggressively next Friday, and really just making sure our boys are healthy and taking care of their academic work and making sure that they are in their right headspace scholastically, so we can be the right team that we need to be on the basketball court.
It's so important, and it's what we're all about here at Alabama, adapted athletics excellence in every aspect of being a college athlete. And every game is another game closer to competing for another national championship to hopefully put up on the walls here in Strand-Harden Arena. Coach, that's all I got for you today. Thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
Absolutely. And thanks as well to all the other sponsors of Alabama Adapted Athletics, in addition to Honey Stinger, Hollister, RGK, Jalapenos, Physio-Elite, ABC Medical, Truist, WVUA, Powerade, Wayray Sheldon, everybody that helps out this program succeed. We really appreciate it. Thank you for all your sponsorship. Our next live streams will be live from right here in Strand-Harden Arena on February 3rd for the UA Early College Classic, available on BamaAdapted.com. As always, the men play ABC Medical at 5:30, and the women play the ABC Medical Legends as well at 7:15. And follow us on socials, Alabama Adapted on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. You've heard me say it all before. And finally, of course, check back into YouTube weekly for all episodes of the Alabama Adapted Athletics Coaches Show. Have a great rest of your day wherever you may be watching or listening, and roll tide.